In the last video, we talked about what a negative externality really is and how when you have an exchange between group A, like the firms, and group B, buyers, there's a cost and benefit that they consider. But with an externality, there is a cost imposed on somebody not in the market. It's an extra cost or an external cost imposed on somebody else, some third party. So in our example, we were looking at the exchange between buyers and sellers of automobiles and realizing that they cause problems. They cause pollution. The firms might pollute, cars might pollute, and so there's this exchange between these two that impacts this group of people that had nothing to do with this buying or selling of automobiles. So what we're going to do is we're going to represent this in a model. And so this model is going to represent how this market right here gets it wrong. And what we'll kind of say is that prices, they send the wrong signal. They get it wrong. So the price is wrong and the quantity is wrong in the market. And there's a reason for that, is because typically what buyers do is they ignore externalities. So we're going to set this up with our regular supply and demand curve. All right, so we have a price and we have a quantity, we have a supply curve, and we have a demand curve. And these supply and demand curves are going to represent different things. So this demand curve represents the marginal social benefit. All right, so when I'm buying a car, this represents the benefit to me and everybody else of having a car, right? So I'm going to write it down on the left-hand side right here. So that is the marginal social benefit. All right, it's the benefit to everybody from one more car. The supply curve is going to be represented by the marginal private cost. All right, so it's the marginal private cost, and this is the marginal social benefit. So marginal private cost. So what does that mean? Well, this is the extra cost. This is the marginal private cost. This is the extra cost to me, the individual. So this is like this person deciding what the extra cost to them is for a car. And that's weighed against the benefit to society for having a car. Well, these two interaction points are going to determine the wrong price and the wrong quantity. So it's going to end up that this point right here is equilibrium. That point is equilibrium. So what we're going to call that is market equilibrium. But this is, there's a problem with this. There's a problem with this price M and QM, is that this market equilibrium ignores a third group. The third group that it ignores are those people that are impacted by the buying and the selling of cars. All right, so you have sellers of cars, you have us considering the cost of the car, you have the social benefit of the car, and that exchange determines this price and quantity, but there's something that's ignored. So if this is the cost to me, right, so let's color coordinate this. If this red line is the cost to me, where's the cost imposed upon other people, right? So let's say for the first car, the extra cost imposed on me is that, but there's this cost imposed upon other people, right? And so let's call it this amount right there. That's the amount right there. That's the extra cost imposed upon other people. So what is, if this is A and this is B, what's A plus B equal? All right, so if A is the cost imposed upon me and B is the extra cost imposed upon everybody else, right? So this is everyone else and A is me. What is me plus everyone? All right, what's me plus everyone? Well, that's going to be society, okay? Or A plus B is going to be the social cost. Okay, so this is going to be the social cost, and we can do that up here too. So this is the cost to me, All right, so this is the cost to me. All right, we'll call this one C. And then we have this, again, we have this B, this cost imposed upon other people. And what is B plus C? What's B plus C equal? Again, well, that's the social cost at, let's say, quantity 4. And then we can go to quantity 10 out here. And we have this cost to me, all right? We'll call that D. And then we have, again, this extra cost imposed upon society. All right, so that extra cost is, again, adding on to the cost imposed upon me. All right, so what's D plus B? Again, that equals the total social cost. So if we were to create this new line, let's do it in blue, this line is a line, it's in addition to this first supply curve. All right, so this first supply curve is like supply 1, let's say. And this second supply curve is supply 2. That supply curve represents something different than this first supply curve. This first supply curve is showing the marginal private cost. This second supply curve is showing something different. We haven't shifted the curve yet. It's a second one. Remember, there's 3 players in this market. There's me, there's the firm, and then there's everybody else. So this supply curve, this supply 2, represents the marginal social cost, right? It's the cost imposed upon everybody, me plus everybody else. All right, so let me try and erase some of these things. That's not going to work. All right, I'll write it over here. So this is going to be the marginal social cost. All right, so we have marginal social benefit, marginal private cost, and marginal social cost. Okay, in the next video, we'll assess a little bit on how this is wrong, but now that you see there's this social cost, you can see that there's this higher supply curve than what we're really considering when it comes to the market. So the market is really just considering this red supply curve and this black demand curve.